Story 1. The startup didn't succeed, and I never made my millions. Now I'm divorced because I didn't put that energy into my relationship instead. Don't hate the hustle, but diversify your efforts. Story 2. Worked my ass off to get a doctor of philosophy. Triggered a brutal autoimmune disease literally a month after my defense from all the stress, and it completely controls my life now. Wish I had enjoyed my 20s more instead. Story 3. Exhausted. One thing people don't remind you is that the people you love age and get more sick. I was laser focused on my career and didn't notice my family members getting sick until it was too late. I'm approaching my 30s, and I already wish I had spent more time with my family and not worried about my career so much. Story 4. I regret it from a social angle. I worked full-time straight from graduating college with no breaks. My friends took time to travel, and now, in our mid-30s, we're all settled into careers with spouses and kids, but I've missed out on the travel and sowing of wild oats. Story 5. I worked hard but didn't save well. I am okay in my 40s. Not rich but not poor either. I own a house and have a nice retirement lined up. I know people in their 40s who earned a lot more than me in their 20s and are now homeless. It all comes down to moderation. Story 6. Personally, I ground hard when I was still a teenager. Before Jerry Garcia died in 1995, when I was only 20, I had already saved up $90,000 from selling grilled cheese on the Grateful Dead tour. I then used that money to invest in real estate in Northern California and have, in the nearly 30 years since, flipped enough properties to only work jobs I truly enjoy. Story 7. 34-year-old male, single. Zero debts. I have accident and health insurance and a sizable investment in the stock market and 2-time deposits. My savings are equivalent to 20 months of my average income. I'm a freelancer, so I don't have a stable monthly salary, but when a client suddenly stops communicating, I don't really worry as I used to 10 years ago. It also helps that I live in Southeast Asia, where $1 can buy me a cheap but filling home-cooked meal. Story 8. I have 2 Doctor of Philosophy degrees, a Juris Doctor degree, and a Master of Arts degree. I have a very successful and powerful position in my state government and am miserable, full of school debt, full of anxiety, drink more than I should, and do not have time to have a personal life, friends, or frankly anything that is not working, commuting to work, and taking care of my kids. Yay! Story 9. I missed the college experience and went straight to work at 17. Worked my way up to management and married at 23. By 27, the owner of my company told me he wanted to make me chief executive officer one day and offered to pay half of my tuition to go to college. I went back and completed my undergraduate degree in a little over 5 years while working 50 to 60 hours per week and even adopted a little girl, becoming a father in the middle of it. Eventually, I became a chief executive officer by cashing in my retirement savings during the COVID pandemic to buy a small business. I'm in my 4th year, we've grown 400%, and I'm looking at a business that I'll sell and retire from within 10 years. I've lived, traveled, partied, have a great marriage to the girl I married at 23, an awesome daughter, and worked my brains out. I don't regret it one bit. Story 10. Spent my late teens and all of my 20s working for my dad's maintenance company. Started just as we took on a nationwide contract covering 24-hour reactive and planned maintenance for a large chain across the United Kingdom as their main contractor. Pros: good money, not just in wages but company earnings, which has allowed me to invest in multiple rental properties and a few other businesses. Mortgage on my own property paid without issue. I'm nowhere near rich, but money certainly isn't a stressful factor in my life, and I'm able to earn a decent passive income, meaning I can now pick and choose my work. Cons: I miss so much of life in general, from gigs, parties, hanging with friends to dinner with family. You name it, I missed it. Even when I was there, I was always on the phone checking emails and messages. Stress was through the roof. The people we worked for were not concerned about a work-life balance. They called and wanted you now, not your employees but you. If a branch couldn't open at 8 a.m. when due, it's you they scream at. I worked multiple 24-hour shifts on site to ensure things were up and running, just to be told it wasn't good enough that someone found dirt in a back-of-house sink. I have a lot to be thankful for due to the work, but part of me regrets choosing it over enjoying life. Story 11. In short, it didn't. My family didn't have money to help with school, and I was taught that debt equals bad, so I enlisted in the Navy nuclear program. After getting out, I started my own small business with a $2,500 vending machine, and over the next decade, I committed to growing the business, never going out partying or wasting money. I finally crossed over 100,000 take-home pay, so I was ready to use my Veterans Affairs home loan. That was in 2021, and I lost out every time to cash offers waiving inspections. Friends that seemingly went nowhere and just skated through life make substantially less than me but have significantly more assets because they said forget it and bought that $75,000 house that it would cost me $400,000 to buy from them because I wanted to follow the correct responsible order in life. Story 12. Burned out severely. Total reset in early 30s. It was all for nothing. Have very few good memories. Missed out on tons of movies, TV shows, music, sports, and social life. Story 13. I worked for a big tech company from age 20 to 30, specifically 1986 to 1996. At 30, I was told by human resources that I couldn't carry any more vacation time, as I hadn't taken one in 7 years. I asked them if they'd just buy it from me and we'd call it even. No, they suggested I take off 1 day a week for the rest of my life, basically, but remain on email and phone during that day. I asked if they'd pay for my vacation if I quit. Yes, I quit that instant. Got the whole but gave them 2 weeks' notice. 17 days later, I was in a raft at the base of Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. Looking forward to running rapid number 5. Highly recommend that, by the way. Spent 3 months in Zimbabwe, mostly guiding sunburned tourists down the Zambezi. If you're going to Africa, stay a while. I didn't work for the next 2 years, just traveled. Denmark, Greece, Turkey, United Kingdom. I drove to Dead Horse, Alaska, kind of got all of the things that I'd been putting off in terms of travel done. Guided 15 trips down the Grand Canyon as the qualified boatman for private trips. Highly recommend that, by the way. I started a company in year 3 and bought some farmland as a hobby. I haven't had a W-2 paycheck in 25 years. I own 450 acres of farmland now, having grown the farm in conjunction with operating the business. I guess it worked out okay. Story 14. It didn't. I became quite wealthy until my early 40s. Then my industry literally disappeared, forget technology. And now I am quite poor. I sowed and sowed through my 20s and 30s, and right when it was time to start reaping, the carpet was pulled out from under me, and now I am on my knees. Story 15. Worked great. Spent my 20s studying like a bear. Got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a doctor of philosophy. Then went into management consulting. Built a great foundation and now have lots of life flexibility and relative financial freedom. And the satisfaction that I earned what I have today. The power of education, coupled with super hard work, can't be beat. Oh, and a supportive family and spouse. That makes a huge difference. And I feel lucky I was able to put time into school. Others don't have that luxury. And I should add also other good luck along the way. Though I believe we make some of our luck. Lots of shots on goal help with the right time and right place equation. Story 16. The thing with grinding is, even if it doesn't pay off like you think it would, you still did better than those who weren't grinding. I'm in my late 40s and still grinding hard. I don't think I'm in a great spot, but I must be because it's amazing how many people call me privileged or a baby boomer, or other things people call you when you're doing better than them. Story 17. I have a 6-figure job and work from home all the time. I never go to the office. It's not in the high hundreds by any means, but I'm very happy where I am financially. Story 18. COVID wiped it out. I guess I might be worse off if I didn't work 2 jobs through my 20s, but I sacrificed having friends in my 20s for money, and then COVID happened. Now I have no friends, and I'm financially the same as a kid getting out of college. I can't afford to live alone anymore without moving to Tornado Alley. There's one life lesson I learned hard. Work on your relationships because money can be gone in an instant. Story 19. I was a combat officer in the Army, fought, got out, and parlayed that into a corporate job. I learned that skill and rose up to my dream job within 10 years. The dream job was disappointing. I wasted most of my success on drugs and partying. Then I had a child, left the competitive world, and moved closer to family. I make six figures effortlessly, and so does my wife, but that's honestly just barely middle class by the standards I grew up with. It wasn't easy, and I'm not sure it was worth it. Our society is in a challenging state right now. We need change. Not because I think my lifestyle isn't worth it, but there are so many people who work much harder than I do for a lot less, and that is what is truly wrong. I was dealt all the right cards, I played them badly, and I'm still okay. That's not a sign of a healthy system. Story 20. I worked very hard up to 25 to 26. Now I have no outstanding student loans, bought a house, have a family, and am about to apply for citizenship in a Nordic country. Coming from a third world country, I have no regrets. I might have missed out on some of the 20s fun and might have been much better off financially if I had continued that path back home. But I'm very happy right now. I can afford any toy I want for myself and my daughter. Story 21. Live in a great city as opposed to living in my hometown of 3,000 people. Working my dream job. Only work 8 days in a month, 24-hour shift, with amazing benefits. Set to retire at 56. No debt. No kids. Have a hobby that brings me joy. Disposable income and happily in a 10-year relationship. Story 22. Just got a job at Google right before turning 30. So yeah, I'm happy. It was a lot of work. The hardest part wasn't the work, though. It was having to cut through the noise of all the others who wanted to put me down as I pursued my goals. Story 23. Define pays off. I have a nice apartment and a car, yet very little debt. Still working hard, just not as hard. I feel like I'm living a rather normal life. Story 24. I tell my kids there are two choices in life. 1. Work now, play later. 2. Play now, work later. I am the result of the second choice, and it is difficult. Life was so much easier when younger, guilty of bad decisions based on not thinking ahead. Story 25. I am literally planning my move to another country, so I do not have to work anymore. As soon as my kids graduate, I'm gone. I've worked myself into literal health issues. I'm so tired. I make a good amount of money. However, I mean this when I say no matter what you make, you'll spend it, especially if you have a family. Yes, I have first world problems. Could be much worse, but I seriously worked 70 to 80 hours a week for years. I advanced in my career quickly, but it definitely took a toll on my personal life and relationships. Luckily, I'm still in my 30s and I've realized what really matters. That is why my wife and I are leaving and moving to a place where I do not have to worry about affording healthcare after working for 45 years. Story 26. Burned out and quit. Now I just spend my time playing poker and video games, still trying to find out how to reconnect and lead a life I want to be living. I'm sure other people go through similar things, but I guess the difference is I don't have to worry about money while I'm doing it. Story 27. I was in graduate school for almost all of it. I had to put life on hold for a bit, but I have a well-paying job I love and a wonderful family. I do wish I had gone on more adventures and been a bit more spontaneous, but I am doing a lot of that now as I am still young enough to do just about anything now that I could have then. Story 28. Really good. In my 20s, I worked 80 to 100-hour weeks. Took jobs I was way underqualified for. Spent free time studying to catch up quickly. Fast forward to now, I'm 36 with 2 kids, able to let my wife be a stay-at-home mom and make over $400,000 a year. The grind now is to change my active income into passive income. I started going heavy into real estate and own a number of rental properties across the United States. I'm tired of climbing the corporate ladder. One thing to note, how you grind in your 20s is important. Put in your 9 to 5, but your additional 40 hours should be for your self-development or progress. If you're doing an 80-hour grind just for a job, you're doing it wrong. Story 29. Missed out on social life and relationships. Ended up with a higher-than-average office worker salary, but then suffered a severe family tragedy that took a toll on me. Today, I am alone. I have some hobbies, a few drinking friends who are really good people, and I ride my motorcycle a lot. I guess financially I am okay, but I do sometimes feel a sense of failure as a person when I see children happily playing with their parents. Story 30. I'm in my early 60s, retired, and make more money in retirement than I did working. What you do in your 20s determines where you will be in your 30s. What you do in your 30s determines where you will be in your 40s, and so on. The harder you work early, the sooner you can retire. Don't give up, think long-term, and take care of your health. Story 31. Spent my 20s working hard and saving money more than most of my peers did. I also spent a lot more than I should have, just to be fair. I also avoided having children in my 20s and early 30s. It paid off by giving me a career that I could rely on when I got into my 30s and decided to have a family. I had zero debt outside of a single credit card I put most of my purchases on and then paid off every month. It allowed me to be better suited for flexibility when it came to family preparation and having a baby, and ultimately allowed me to own a house, two actually, paid off cars, and very little debt by the time my first son was born. This, in turn, allows for savings for things directly benefiting him, such as college, rainy day funds, and a car. These things that seem really hard to execute when you're facing them in your 20s are basically just habits because of the choices I made early on. A drawback is that most of my peers and family members who decided to have children back when I was working hard are now entering their empty nest years. They're traveling more, having more free time and such, while I'm still with children and don't have the free time to join them on vacations that they can just take on a whim. They're still working, as most of them are in their 40s and not close to retiring yet, so they're not totally free of the system. A benefit for me is that financially, when I get to that point of the same empty nest scenario, I will have far better coverage across the board for me and my kids. In that age range of retirement, I'll have my money working for me so that all my partner and I will have in terms of responsibility is leisure and relaxation.